And now this sounds kind of counterintuitive because you're thinking dream life, that's everything I've always wanted in one place at one time. And so when I really started to take stock of this particular principle is when I allowed myself to be free of this. Just going on holiday because you don't like what's happening here is not the solution. Hey, what's up, I'm Adam. If you're new here and if you're returning, then you know what's good. Today I want to talk about the principles that I think have helped me in creating my dream life. And of course I'm not there yet, like there's lots of things to still be cultivated. But these principles and learning them along the way, some I kind of knew early on, some have really become apparent to me as I progressed. They've really helped me get so far in life and also get the most out of every day. I think a really big thing that a lot of us are coming to terms with is this end goal thinking solely, and that the dream life, you know, is somewhere in 10, 15 years. It sounds nice, but all those days in between also have to be, you know, enjoyed. That is the dream life, right? It starts today if you want it to. And so this is what I want to kind of share in this video. I think it'll be really useful. If you've seen my video on like how I changed my life, you know I've been through my highs and lows like a lot of us. Some of the things I talk about on this channel, some of the things I don't for obvious reasons. But I know a lot of us obviously are trying to work out how we can make the most out of life. Like we're all looking to live a more fulfilled life naturally, right? We want to have meaning and we want to know that the hours, the days, the weeks mean something to us and to the people around us and potentially the legacy we leave behind. So that was very deep, whoa. Let's just get into it. So the first principle that is guiding me towards my dream life is that enrichment is not the same as addition. It's so easy to get caught up in this loop of if I just add more, I'll be better, things will be better, life will be better, right? And that's so often not the case, right? Because we get the thing or we get that person or whatever, and yet there is still a void. And it's really interesting because I was looking up the definition of enrichment, and there's not much talk about quantity. In fact, it's about enhancing something's quality, right? The quality of a thing, the value of a thing, which doesn't necessarily mean adding, right? Often it's about refining and stripping things back. And I think when I learned this in life, or as I learned this throughout my life, it becomes a lot easier to live a life of meaning when you stop conflating simplicity with basic. Because often we can shake things off, oh, that's basic. No one says that, I don't think, in 2022, but yeah, I think there was a period when I was like, that's basic. But forgetting that some of the things that we cherish the most in this world are in their refined form, right? When we draw it back down to its most core self. And it seems really silly, but I want to use an example of skincare just to illustrate this, because it's something that in my life, I've been trying to get to a point where I'm happy with my skin since I was about 16, 17. And I always thought, okay, if I just add this, you know, if I just add this, somebody said something about a 10-step skincare routine or whatever, somehow then I'll get to where I want to be in this part of my life, my dream life, where in this perfect world I have amazing skin or whatever. And adding and adding and adding did nothing for it. In fact, I think it actively aggravated my skin. And it wasn't until I thought about simplifying, drawing things back into my skincare routine, which is about 3 items, right? And focusing on more natural things that aligned with my skin chemistry, that's when I saw the best outcomes. And it may seem simple, but these things are the things that make up life, like these small acts. I mean, have you ever looked at your wardrobe and thought there's nothing here? And yet there's something cathartic about taking things out and perhaps giving them away or selling them, but so that your space is a refined reflection of you and the things that you want. But it scales up, and this is where it gets really interesting, because if you think about, even as a friendship sense, if you're feeling lonely, and this idea that if I just add more friends, or, you know, if I just have a bigger friendship group, then of course I'll feel, you know, fulfilled and content. And yet, how many times have we heard about people who feel alone in a room full of people, right? And so perhaps it's not about adding more friends to your friendship group, but instead refining the friendships that you do have, right? And pouring into those more, all the relationships that are there. And so when I really started to take stock of this particular principle is when I allowed myself to be free of this constant need for more and more and more. And it's still a work in progress, don't get me wrong. And I think it will probably always be a work in progress when you're in a world that demands so much of you and encourages you to always want more. To understand that sometimes pulling back is the way to fulfillment. So that is the first principle. So the second principle that is helping me build my dream life is don't run, build. Now this is really about, instead of creating a life where you are constantly seeking breaks from it, right? Like you're constantly trying to escape it, whether that be the weekend or, you know, a trip to Cancun or Bali or, you know, to Italy, whatever it is. That is not a life that you enjoy living, right? It's one that you're always trying to run from, versus putting your energy into building a life in which you're happy to be in. And that's not to say every day is amazing or every day is perfect, but that the life as a whole is one that feels enriched, it feels meaningful, it's feeling content, right? And that's not to say that things don't go wrong or whatever, but it's very different to always running, right? To just working towards the run. And I had to stop myself, I can't remember how long ago it was. I was gonna book another holiday and I thought, this is before obviously I started my remote work and like it became a part of my actual life. And I was like, no. Just going on holiday because you don't like what's happening here is not the solution. Like it can never be the solution, because then you're in an infinite loop of this and that's not gonna work. And so now, of course, remote work is a part of my life at present as I'm employed in my tech role and things like that. That's very different to 1 week or 3 weeks in the year or 4 weeks in the year where I get to go away and then come back to London and the commute or whatever. It's very different. And so that is just one example, I think, of how focusing on the build versus the run has helped me build my life. And it's something that I'm still implementing. There are lots of things that I want to build into my life, right? Things that I don't really talk about as much on this channel, but I want that to be my everyday. And so just focusing my energy on these small glimmers of, you know, ecstasy or whatever, I have no real interest in the way I used to anymore. The third principle that is guiding me towards my dream life is accepting that you can't have everything all the time. And now this sounds kind of counterintuitive, because you're thinking dream life, that's everything I've always wanted in one place at one time. That is the dream. But life is a series of trade-offs, and the moment that you accept this is the moment you can free yourself from this constant desire for everything. And again, this was something that I had to learn, because if I didn't have everything perfectly how I wanted it, the perfectionist in me wanted everything to be aligned exactly how I said it would be. That way of thinking is very, very taxing and it's exhausting, because the reality is you can't have everything. And we may have been sold a dream that we can have all the things in the world, but we can't. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's when, of course, priorities become important. It's okay to give up this thing because of this thing that I really want a lot more, right? Like, I'm okay with not having all these other little things, because this big central thing in my life is what I get. And I have friends who, you know, gave up things when they were younger. They had trade-offs that they gave up when they were younger, and right now in their late 20s, they are living off their passive income. They travel the world when they want to. They stay at home when they want to. They're in a relationship. And they're living their dream life, or they're working to build that and living it along the journey. I have other friends who have children, and you can see the happiness and fulfillment in their face when they are around their kids or when they talk about their children. But there were trade-offs to be made. They didn't have everything, right? They're not going away all the time because they're there with their children, or, you know, because their children are in school or whatever. They are making priorities for what is bigger for them, the bigger picture for them. And I want to kind of leave this particular principle on this, is that if you can only be content with everything, you'll never be content with anything, because we've established that we can't have everything in this life. And so that everything that you are given, you will fail to ever enjoy, because, well, it wasn't everything. The fourth principle that is helping me to create my dream life is always consider what is driving your decisions. And that's because there are so many things that are trying to influence us. I've said this before on this channel. And when you come to the realization that, you know, and this can get quite meta in this, are your thoughts ever really your own thoughts, because everything's influencing everything, and really it's just, that aside, we know that there are often very big things that are influencing our big life decisions, like, you know, the jobs you're doing, where you go to uni, whether you have a family, when you do certain things, and not really taking the time to, you know, step back and assess why you are pursuing this thing, why this should be the next step. that's when things can go wrong. And I've seen in my own life, when I have not done that, when I have not stopped to consider why I am pursuing what I am pursuing, it has often not led me down a road of fulfillment or, a meaningful outcome, one that has enriched my life for the better. And so this is why I am a really big advocate of introspection, if you'd like, and self-awareness, because only if you're aware of yourself can you really be aware of how other things are interacting with you. And it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. And I definitely want to talk about self-awareness in another video altogether. But yeah, this one is really about considering the things that are driving you and your decisions for life, because your dream life ultimately should be yours, right? It should be your dream life, not this person's or that person's or anything else. The fifth principle, and it's one that you've probably heard before, but it's inescapable, right? Is that health is the foundation, but not just physical health, which I obviously speak a lot about on this channel. I talk about lifting, I talk about body recomp and things like that, because it's a key part of my life as well. But spiritual and mental health, like, it's all well and good if you have all these external things, like if your dream life consists of a million cars, thank you car in the background for that, or it is a big family. If you don't have, say, the physical health, the spiritual health and the mental health to really enjoy those things and really make the most out of what you've been given or what you've created and cultivated, then what good is a dream life or a plan for a dream life, right? And I actually want to take a moment to talk about mental health, because this is something that has affected me and my ability to actually enjoy life, right? And it's this idea that if you are not in the right mental frame of mind, if you are not nourishing your mind, your mental health, and actively taking steps to ensure that it is thriving, how can you even begin to enjoy a dream life, right? And this is really key, because our perception of reality is pretty much the most important thing, right? There are obviously very physical, tangible things that are happening in reality, but how we see those things really makes the difference between our experiences. And if you are in a place where you cannot see the blessings that are in front of you or the work you've put in to get to where you are, then how can you ever live a dream life and enjoy it? And the sixth and final principle, that relationships drive everything. When you really think about it, everything boils down to a relationship, whether it be one with, your God, whether it be one with your family, whether it be one with your partner, whether it be the one with yourself. Everything is really going towards that direction of how can I enrich this relationship, whether it be I want financial freedom so that I can spend more time with my family, so I can watch my children grow up, so I can be a part of their everyday, or I want geographical freedom so that I can connect with myself in different places, see how I respond to certain situations, see how I experience certain scenarios, right? So I can better understand myself and also feed that back into my idea of my dream life. When it wasn't really until I understood this that I could really derive meaning from every day in life, and not just this end goal thing of happiness is somewhere else, somewhere at the end of the pursuit. If you've seen The Pursuit of Happiness, that's one of my favorite films ever. But anyway, yes, that's when things became clearer for me, and why I even wanted to do all the things I wanted to do and see myself in my dream life the way I do. It makes sense when you understand that relationships drive everything. And so that's it. Those are the principles that I think are helping me craft my dream life. They may not be a checklist of things that you do tomorrow or whatever, but I think what they do is build a system and help craft a system for longevity, and so that your dream life starts today and is tomorrow and is the next day. But yes, that's it. See you in the next video.